Everybody who is attending this session will be on mute. So if you do have any questions, please feel free to enter the questions into the question area in the GoToMeeting panel. And what I can do is I can certainly address those questions at the end of this session. If we don't get enough time to get through any of the questions, we will be able to get back to you shortly after as well, individually one by one to respond to you. All right, so today's session, we are going to be covering a few different topics, such as creating a group with individual pay-own guests. We'll also review on creating a group with direct billing to a city ledger account. We'll also look at the option of billing to a house account as well. And then we will look to see how to create a reservation for those individual pickup reservations, as well as creating reservations using the group rooming list function within the group module. Once we have the group set up, we will be able to conduct a group check-in, check-out, as well as how to make a group rate available on our eRes online booking engine. And then finally, we will review how a group organizer can access group information right online through the online booking engine, such as group block info and a rooming list. So to access our group module under the operations menu here would be groups. So to create a new group, on the right-hand side, I would select New. And what we can do to start off with the first group will be creating an individual pay-own guest group. So all the guests that will be reservations as part of this group block will be paying for their incidental charges as well as their room and tax. An example of that would be a wedding group block. To create a wedding group block, we'll just use an example here as the Smith and Wilson wedding. Now, under the group ID must be unique for this group. It will be used in different areas of RoomKey, such as allowing a group rate to appear on eRes, as well as a group code, as well as for a login for a group coordinator to log in. You are also able to search from the group ID, so we do recommend to have the group ID unique. A recommendation that I would suggest would be to use the first initials as well as the arrival date of this group. So if we're going to have this group arrive for next weekend, maybe May 8th and May 9th, I would maybe recommend to enter in SWW for Smith and Wilson wedding, and then just the arrival date would be 050815 for May 8th of 2015. Enter in your client type. Right now I do have group from this drop-down list. If you're a property that does distinguish a little bit further into detail on the type of group, whether it's a group leisure, group corporate, or so forth, you can also drop down and select a few different other client types as well. That also does apply for your drop-down for your room charge code. If you have a tax-exempt code, or if you have a group room charge code where you do want to track some of those room revenues, transaction codes separately, you can also select that from this drop-down list here. In the meantime, you will want to enter in your arrival date for the group, and we'll go ahead with May the 8th and the 9th. So we'll set that for 2 nights. As you adjust your number of nights, you'll notice that the departure date also automatically adjusts, or you can enter in your departure date and your number of nights will automatically be entered in. The checkout time on this screen is also the default checkout time that you have set at your property, customized to the property tab. If you do want to adjust your checkout time and you're going to be providing a later checkout for this group, you can certainly enter that into here as 1 p.m. in 24-hour time, and any reservations that are created from this group block will have that 1 p.m. late checkout time applied. This will also appear on your housekeeping reports. If you want to allow a group to be booked or guests arrive prior and post for your group block, you can check off this tick box here that guests can arrive and depart outside of the group block. You can enter a pre and a post day as well. An example might be that if you have your actual group block itself for May the 8th and the 9th, for those 2 nights, if you have any attendees possibly attending this wedding that might be flying in from out of town and staying 1 night prior or after, you can also have them attached to this group so you can still identify that they are part of the group block itself. Now the cutoff day is on the right-hand side here. This is to determine how far out from your arrival date from the group do you want to release the rooms that you're currently being held for the group block itself? If I enter in 7 days here, 7 days prior to my May 8th arrival is when my actual block will be released back to my regular inventory. That cutoff type, you can actually identify whether you want to set that as a whole block or a 1 day. Whole block will release the entire group block for both days, for the 8th and the 9th. On 7 days out from my May 8th arrival, I can also set that to 1 day, which is going to release those rooms 1 day at a time from the group block itself. For this example, I am going to select the whole block. You do have a choice here for a block type, whether it's solid or transparent. Now, solid is going to remove rooms being held in this group block from your regular inventory. So an example, if you had 40 rooms at your property and you're holding 10 rooms aside, you can actually have those 10 rooms removed so you only have 30 rooms left to be booked from your regular reservations. If you have transparent, you'll still be having rooms assigned for this block here, but it's not going to remove it from your total inventory to be sold. If I want to hold these aside from my total inventory, I will select solid. And of course, you can enter in your source of business, discount group, and enter in a field under the attached note. Now, the attached note field is going to appear on any of your reservations that are booked with this group block. An example you might want to input is any billing instructions, such as guest to pay own charges. And you'll see here at the bottom, we also have a tab here for our contact and billing information. Now for the contact and billing information, you'll see at the top we have a folio number. In brackets, we have room and tax charges. This is going to direct where those room and tax charges are going to go. If I select folio number 1, folio 1 will have the room and tax going to the guest account, which they will be settling for. We will discuss a little bit later on the examples of when we're going to assign folio 8. That will be if we are doing a group with direct billing or to a city ledger account or even to a house account. In the meantime, I am going to select folio 1, and we will be ignoring this area just for now. Under the address, you would enter in the contact details for the group itself. If you enter in the zip code, a U.S. zip code, you'll also have the city, country, and the state auto-populate. And then from here, you can enter in the telephone number for the actual guest. Oh, sorry, the actual contact name. So let's go with Sandra Smith. And then you can enter in the telephone number here. Also have a field for the email address. You can also enter in a fax number. It is not a mandatory field at all. You do also have an option here at the bottom to also add a travel agent if you are going to be tracking commissions for a specific group block. You can select these binoculars here, which is going to be your search function. From here, you can actually select a travel agent you already have in your system, or you can add one from this screen as well. The main two tabs that do need to be completed would be the General and the Contact and Billing Info tab. Once everything is complete, select Post. Oh. Let me just try that one more time. Just bear with me here. And we'll just set this group back up to how we had it just set before. All right, perfect. So as you noticed here, when I selected Post, we do have a few additional tabs along the top that now can be selected. We also do have a routing and deposit tab here at the bottom that is available to be customized as well. Now we'll touch base on that when we're creating a group on having the room and tax charges going to a house account. In the meantime, I'm going to continue to our number 2 rates tab. This is where we can actually attach a group rate to this wedding block. There is a shortcut key to our rate wizard from this screen here. Just select rate wizard on the top left-hand side. From here, you do have a choice to either create a new rate. If you're going to be setting this one up for an actual wedding, you might have a breakdown of different group rates already entered into your system. You might have a corporate group rate or even a leisure or wedding group rate. I do have one already set up under a group rate. In order to attach it, I would select my pen and paper symbol at the bottom to edit this rate here. Now you'll see here there is a tab at the top here that says Groups. I can then open up my 2 different channels for my hotel direct channel and my hotel website, which is going to appear in my eRes. And you'll see here now the group that I've just created now allows me to attach this rate to the group. I select Update, and now I can close out from this screen. And you'll see here that under my group default rate here, this drop-down now allows me to select my group rates. If I want to set this as my group default rate, I would go ahead and select Post. And you'll see here on the bottom left-hand side under my attached rates, my group rates for both of my channels, my default rate is now my group rate itself. If I also scroll through each of my room types, you also see that also has applied to all my 5 different room types as well. Now, if I have a specific group rate already set up in my system, but I'm negotiating something a little bit different for this actual wedding block itself, I can actually use my Override Attach Rates feature. And what this allows me to do is to modify my group rate plan itself just specifically for my Smith & Wilson wedding group block, but it's not going to affect the way my group rate is built on its own. You'll see here on the top I do have 2 options. I have 1 day pre, my 1 day post, and my 2 days for my main group block. At the bottom you'll also see here that I have my rates currently set already into the system. Now I have a higher rate on my Friday and my Saturday. And if I want to negotiate a lower rate at, say, beginning at 159 for my Friday and Saturday for the actual group block, but not apply that to my Thursday and Sunday because those are my pre and post days. So a guest can still stay, be part of the group, but they might not be able to be eligible for a specific negotiated group rate itself. If I want to make any updates to my Friday and my Saturday rate, I can actually uncheck my day pre-arrival and my 1 day post-departure and just leave my 2 dates left within my main group block. What I can then do here is enter in the new rates that I do want to load and override, and I'll just input that in for my single, double, and triple and quad rates, and then go ahead and select Save. My rate overrides have saved successfully, and now you'll see here that my Friday and my Saturday rates have now been reduced to what I've negotiated for this group block. My Thursday and my Sunday rates for my group do remain the same, but the Friday and Saturday will have changed. Once I close out, my overrides have been made. I can actually proceed now to my number 3 block tab to set my group blocks aside. Now this screen here is going to show all my 5 different room types. You'll also see my total inventory that I have available for all of my rooms and the average rate depending on the 4 days that I have shown on this screen here. You also see that each day for May 7th, 8th, 9th, and forward, I have a few different tabs which is going to show me my total inventory available for that specific day, how many rooms I do want to hold off from my block, which is my BLK column, and PUP, which is pickup, will show how many rooms have been reserved already within that room type. And of course, REM is how many rooms remaining, which is from my block, minus my pickup, which will give me how many I have left. If I want to update and hold aside a specific amount of rooms for this group block, I would check off Edit Mode on the bottom left-hand side. And what I can do here is I'm going to only assign rooms aside for my Friday and Saturday because those are the main dates for my group itself. Now I'm going to hold 4 rooms for my studio, and I'm going to hold 4 rooms for my Deluxe King. Maybe I'll also hold 2 rooms for my Standard Double. I'm going to enter that in for both dates and go ahead and select Post. Now I don't want to enter in an inventory aside for my Thursday and my Sunday because I'm not guaranteed to actually have guests pick up from those rooms. So I'm only going to hold my Friday and Saturday and then make any adjustments if needed if there's any guests that are inquiring about those days pre and post. I do want to just show here the number 4 guest services tab. If you have a guest service entered into your system, you can also select what you have available from the right-hand side and then select include, which is going to shift them over to the left, and any reservations that are part of this group will have any guest services automatically attached to that. The main tabs that do need to be completed for a group would be primary tab 1, rates for number 2, and block number 3. Now if I close out from my group wizard, you'll now see that on my group master, I have my Smith and Wilson wedding appear here. This is going to show me a list of all my active groups that I have in the system. It's going to show me anything that I have current right now, as well as any groups that are upcoming into the future. And it will show me anything in the last 45 days as well that have already occurred. If I want to search beyond that, that have passed already, I can always use my view and my search function here. This will allow me to either search by group name or an account name by exact match, or I can uncheck this as well and even include a search for an arrival date. Now, in order to pull those dates for this wedding itself or a reservation, I can close out from the group module and select new reservation here. Under my client type, I select group, and you'll see here from my right-hand side, my group dropdown is now available to be selected, but I don't see anything specific for this group itself. That is based on the actual arrival dates from the group. So if I select Friday, May 8th, for 2 nights, you'll see that my group for Smith and Wilson wedding now appears. I can then select refresh, and you'll see my inventory available for this group. So it's not the inventory that I have in total available, it's only specific to the group block itself. If I want to book a specific studio room, you'll see I have my group rates. I can check that off, select book, and then proceed to book this reservation. Now just to save a little bit of time, I'm just going to enter in a guest that I already have in the system and select OK. Now you'll see here the reservation that's been made for Bart Broom is now attached to the Smith and Wilson wedding, and that reservation note that I've also added in has also followed through onto the reservation itself. Now the second option of creating a group would be by creating one that's going to have direct billing to a City Ledger account. So an example might be if you have a corporate meeting that's happening at the hotel. I'll select new, and let's just create a group that will have room and tax charges moving to folio 8. An example I'll do is let's do an RSI meeting, and I'll do RIM. And if this is going to arrive for today, we'll put April the 30th, 2015, and then we can enter this in for 2 nights. Now, I'm not going to enter in a pre and post date because this is for arrival for today, as well as the cutoff I'm going to enter as 0 because I don't want to have any rooms released back to my inventory. I'll choose my source of business and attach note. Now, if room and tax is going to go to direct billing, I can enter that into my note field. And proceed to my contact and billing info. Now from here, this is where I'm actually going to drop down under my folio number to number 8. And then I can choose bill to city account. And if I want to create a city account as well while I'm creating my group itself, I can check off create new account and then enter in the actual city ledger name itself. I am going to assign a credit limit and an address. And you also see if I enter a Canadian postal code, you'll see the city, country, and province will also populate. and select Post. So now I have the group set up here itself. I can go to number 2, rates. Same thing, I would go to my rate wizard. I can either create a new rate itself or select a rate I already have in the system. Select Edit, and onto my Groups tab. Now the Groups tab here is going to allow me to select the group that I've just created and select Update. I can close out from the rate wizard, and now I can assign this as my group default rate. Now again, I have that override attached rates feature, or I can choose if I want to make any adjustments to this rate plan itself. Now you'll see that I do currently have a change in my rates from a weekday versus a weekend. I might want to have a specific flat rate for those 2 dates. I can then assign, and I'm going to override for both of my dates as, we'll do $99. And my number 3 block tab. So again, what I can do here is edit mode, enter in the amount of rooms that I want to hold aside. If they're all going to be Deluxe Kings, maybe I can enter in 8, and we'll do 8, and select Post. Again, I can add a guest service if I want to. Now, if I close out from the group wizard, I do want to show how this is going to appear in our inventory calendar. Under my operations and my inventory calendar menu, the shortcut key is F12. You'll also see here that based on my total number of rooms that I have for today, which is 46 rooms, I actually have available 37 and 38. Now I have a block line, which is going to show me that I have 8 rooms held in block. If I've set a group ahead for the future, such as the rooms that I've held aside here, and I'm wondering which groups they are, I can always select the actual date itself, which is going to bring up a copy of my inventory detail report. This is going to show me any reservations that I already currently have in-house at this moment, as well as if I have any blocks held. So from here, you will be able to see that I have my RSI International meeting that's being held, 8 rooms in block. From my 46 rooms, I also only have 37 rooms left available. Now I do want to show you a feature what we have here, which is the rooming list function. So instead of creating individual reservation, if I go into my groups module and I reopen my RSI International meeting and select open, and perhaps that the group organizer is going to provide a list of all the attendees that will be attending this meeting itself. I can go to my number 5 rooming list tab. From here, you will see all the room types that I have currently being held in the system for this group block, and I can actually enter in a first name and a last name for all the guests that will be attending. So as I enter these guests into these fields, you'll see here that under my Res ID column, I actually do have new being entered in. And let's just do one more. I can adjust from this screen here. I can choose to select a different arrival date. I can move it back to April 30th if I want to. I can adjust my number of nights, adults, children. I can also select and assign a specific room number to a guest as well. There's also another feature here that does allow me to assign all rooms, which will automatically assign each room to the guest depending on the room type they're booked for. Now, if there's routing being set up, you'll see that it's been identified here, as well as if I had any guest services attached to this group, it will also apply for the reservation itself. And I do have these charges going off to my Folio 8, which is my room and tax going to my City Ledger account. And just watch what happens here under my reservation ID column when I select Post. You'll see here that automatically I do have a reservation ID assigned to all these guests. If I close out from my group wizard, and I just reselect my reservation screen, you will see here now that I do have a few additional reservations that have just been created through my rooming list instead of going through one by one. If I go back to my operations menu here, I just wanted to show how to make a group available on eRes. Under my RSI International meeting, if on the right-hand side I select my eRes page, you'll see here I do have a tick box that allows me to have access through my RoomKey eRes. If I check this off and I assign a password, we'll do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This also allows access for a group organizer to view their rooming list, view the guests that booked reservations, as well as their group block to see what rooms have been picked up as well. So they'll be able to access it right online through our eRes page. You can also attach a group note itself. This group note will appear on any confirmations, and you can also have the option of attaching a specific file as well to all confirmations sent for any reservations booked within the group. It might include directions to the hotel as well, or any useful information. Once I select Post, and I close out, you'll see here that if I just bring up a copy of my eRes booking engine, and I search for an arrival date here for 2 nights, I can enter in a group code, and that group code that I had was RIM 0430, and search availability. Let me just reopen this here. You'll see here that I have my group rate available here, and it's not going to show any of my regular rates that I have available. So what I can go ahead is I can go ahead and book now and proceed to book that group. Now, if I am a group organizer and I do want to view access for my group itself to see how it's doing, I can actually select groups, and I have my group ID and my password as well. So if I enter in the ID and the password, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and select Login. From this screen, you'll be able to see that I have my block information for this group. I have my group name, RSI International Meeting, my group arrival date, departure date, as well as the contact and the address. And based on the dates that I've held aside for this group block and the room types, you'll see how many rooms I've held aside for each day. So I have 8 and 8, and then I've had 5 reservations that were booked. I can also look at my reservations tab, which is going to show me all my reservations here, all the guests, how many people will be attending, and under my notes and attachment as well, I can also, as a group organizer, have the option of updating what the group note is going to be, so that does appear on my confirmations when a reservation is booked. I can also choose to upload that attachment from this side as well. So both the property, you have access to enter in that group note and attachment, as well as the group organizer itself, so they can actually manage things on their end. Now, what you always want to make sure that when you have a group and you want to make that available through the online booking engine, when you are in the rate wizard, you want to make sure that this group rate itself here is made available for your hotel website channel. Now, it doesn't need to be attached to a specific client type. As long as it's attached to the group itself, it does have to be available through my hotel website channel in order for that rate to appear. Now, if I close out and I go to my operations menu and back into groups, you'll see here that the RSI International Meeting, there is going to be a tab that is available on the day of arrival, which is my number 6 check-in tab. Now, my number 6 check-in tab is going to allow me to see those guests here, what room they're booked for, the room number. If I select the actual room number itself, I can drop down and reassign a new room number. You'll also see, based on these colored lamps, what the room status is. If I'm okay with all these guests here, I do have the option to select by ticking these tick boxes off which guests I want to check in. If I want to check in only some, but not all. I would leave some checked off. If I'm checking in all reservations, I can proceed to check these off and select check-in. Now what it's going to ask me, it's going to ask me if I want to confirm just to check in all the reservations I have selected. I would then proceed to select yes. And you'll see here that all the reservations will be checked in. Now if a status for one of the rooms was not inspected and it was either dirty or clean, what it's going to do, it will prompt me to choose if I want to proceed to check the reservation in. Then I can actually move forward with either reassigning a room that is inspected to check it in, or I do have the option to go ahead and proceed to check the guest into a dirty room. Now on the day of checkout, you will also have that checkout function as well. And you also have a number 8 tab here to enter in any notes. Any notes entered into the group wizard is seen from this screen and this screen only. It might be more pertaining to internal use. If you have a few people at your property that are managing one group itself, you can actually use this area to communicate. So if you want to enter in a note, just select Insert. On the right-hand side, you can input Group Organizer has called to increase group block and select Post. Now what happens here is that it'll show you the clerk ID that you're logged in under, seen from the right bottom here, as well as the date. If you do want to increase the group block, you just simply need to go to the Block tab, reselect the Edit Mode button, and then you can overwrite the number that you already have. So if I'm increasing this from 8 to 9, and I know that there's going to be a few additional people that will be attending, enter that into this field and select Post. And what you'll see is automatically going to update my number remaining as well here. Now once I have this group itself, I do have an option here to view my group details. Report's going to show me here all my room numbers, the guests, as well as the number of nights and the rate that they're staying. I can also run and print off a group pickup report as well here. So if you're running a report, you also see how much the total room revenue is going to be, and then which rooms have been picked up. So it's fairly similar to the actual list that the group organizer can log on to online and view. Now, if you have the example of a reservation that's going to have room and tax going to a house account, under the contact and billing info, you would still set this up to folio number 8. But one area you do not want to enter in is you do not want to check off bill to city account. You can then move over to your routing and deposit tab and actually create a house account. So when you're creating a house account, just select house accounts on the right-hand side to add. Under the client type and account type is house, and you can enter in a room number. So in order to have a house account set up, you do have to have your house room type set up through your room inventory screen, which is found under your system configuration menu. You can also add in a specific form of payment to add to this house account. And I'll just enter in a fake credit card here. And you would just enter in and post. Now once you've created that house account, you'll see that it's auto going to assign itself a reservation ID. You will be able to see here in the background that I also have that reservation already created, and that has been created at a 0 rate. If you have any pre- and post nights assigned to a group itself, the house account will also be including those pre- and post nights. Now, this reservation would need to be checked into the system prior to any group arrivals in order to have that routing to work correctly. In order to set up specific charges to be routed, what you'd want to do is you can then see that you have a first line here, which is res ID 0. This is pertaining to any reservations that you actually have in your system currently right now. So under your rooming list tab, any reservations that are there, that is going to include the instructions under this account. So what you would want to do is under the group of transactions, you can select the room charge. You can have your room charge itself going to folio 8 and select add. If you want, you can also assign anything additional to room charge to go. You can have other charges, and if you have a specific transaction code such as phone calls, maybe phone calls will also be going to the house account, you can then select add. You do have the option as well to route a specific amount. So you can choose if you're going to be moving a room charge up to $50 per night, and maybe the guest will be paying for the remainder amount on their own. You can enter that amount into this field. If you tick this checkbox off, you will also be able to see whether it's going to be a certain percentage of that amount as well. Now this account here, reservation 1067, this is where you're going to instruct where those charges are going to go once they're sitting in the house account itself. So if you want charges to go to folio 8 here, you can then also reassign your room charge to go to folio 8 once it's sitting in the house account, as well as any other charges, such as a telephone call, and select post. Did that answer your question, Andrea? I believe you had the question on how to create a group with charges going to a house account instead. All right. And overall, that's pretty much the groups module. Again, there's 3 different types of groups you can make. There is one going to a individual pay-own guest. You have one going to a direct bill city account, which will be invoiced later. You also have one option as well that's going to a specific house account. Again, just to review, you are able to make rates for your groups available through the use of eRes. If you are signed up for that area of RoomKey, that will be under your eRes page here. You would tick this off here and enter in a password. This will also give access to your corporate area as well for your group organizer. Now, if you do have any questions, feel free to enter anything into the question field in your GoToMeeting panel. I do have a question here from somebody which is asking, what is the advantage of having things going to a house account as opposed to a city ledger? Now, the city ledger area is a little bit different from the house account. The house account does sit on the guest ledger side. So in order to check out this specific house account, as an example, it must be resolved and settled by May the 2nd. Now, of course, you can always go ahead to extend a reservation, but typically the difference of a city ledger account would be if you want to have a guest or a group check out, but you're going to be invoicing the company at a later time. Now, you might have a certain contract or something negotiated with the group itself that's going to settle 1 month later, a few months later. If you do have repeat group business with the company, you might have them accumulate balances or charges on their city ledger account and settle them on a regular basis. There's a question, is there a way to check if charges are actually being routed to a house account on the individual reservation? Basically, when you have a reservation checked in for a group, at the time of checkout, the routing is set up to go to folio 8. When you check out the guest, you do have that option to then transfer it to the house account. So when a guest is checked in, for the duration, it will stay on the actual guest reservation itself. It will not happen until the time of checkout where that charge will be transferred to that house account. Of course, on the day of checkout, using the group checkout function, you can also transfer them all en masse to a house account and then go ahead to proceed to check out that house account itself. Or if at that time a group organizer has decided to have charges to be invoiced to the company itself, you can then transfer that and create that transfer to a city ledger account at that time. but I would not recommend to do that unless you have it already set up as a city ledger. That's usually used if there's a change in the billing instructions at the time of checkout. Are there any other questions at all? For the charges, a question coming in here about the individual guest charges. So it's not going to appear individual guest charges if you're transferring it to a city ledger account. What you will do, though, is under the group details itself, you can bring up a report on the actual room rate and the room charges, as well as if they've had any other incidental charges here. So this report would actually be used if you want to find out what specifically each reservation had charged. Usually group organizers would maybe request a copy of this report here to find out what those charges are. If they're transferred to a house account first, since it's on the guest ledger side, if you're transferring one lump sum into the city ledger after that fact, it will show just that house account charge. If you have it set to city ledger to be direct billed from the get-go, then yes, you will have all of these 5 reservations appear as 5 different invoices on the account. All right, so I don't see any other questions that are coming through. Okay, so I think that is going to pretty much wrap up the group webinar that we do have scheduled here for today. If you do need any further documentation or guidelines as well, we do have our support page, which is RoomKeyPMS.com/support. You can also use our help option as well here, which is to the RoomKey Smart Support function, which allows you to search based on specific keywords as well on how to conduct a group check-in or how to create those 3 different types of groups as well, or if you're dealing with any of groups on your eRes. All right, thank you very much, and have a great day, everybody.